conversations about our faith too. But, so. It is now noon, so I call this meeting to order. Thank you all for being here. Mr. Coley, would you call the roll? Just to make it official on the last day that one of our members is here.
Commissioner Askew.
Here.
Commissioner Caballero. Here. Commissioner Hamilton. Here. Commissioner Herbert. Here. Commissioner Simpson-Brown. Here. Commissioner Small.
Present.
Commissioner Worden.
Here.
All right, thank you.
All are present and accounted for.
Very good. You've seen the minutes for the November 18th meeting. They were distributed in advance. I'll entertain a motion for their approval.
So moved.
So moved by Commissioner Small.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Simpson-Brown. Any discussion on the minutes? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved as submitted. First official action for today is Resolution 1448. I'll recognize Mr. Bowles.
Thank you, Chair Askew. Commissioners, last month you all approved on first reading the second amendment to the PPA that set aside the $6 million pandemic recovery credits for us to use for assistance programs. As a reminder, $1 million will be used for weatherization and $5 million for low-income energy assistance throughout this next year. So on this, I'm asking for approval on second reading of Resolution 1448 on your approval so we can execute that program.
So I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 1448.
So moved.
Good. Commissioner Herbert, it moves.
Second.
Commissioners.
Commissioner Ward.
All right,
He won't be
Commissioner
able to do
Warden.
this much longer, so-
Commissioner Warden gets the second. Okay, very good. Are there any members of the public who would like to address the board on this motion? Seeing none. Mr. Coley, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Askew.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero. Aye. Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Herbert.
Aye.
Commissioner Simpson-Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Small.
Aye.
Commissioner Worden.
Aye.
Resolution 1448 has passed on second and final reading.
Very good. Thank you all. Resolution 1449 is next on our agenda, and Mr. Bowles.
Yes, Commissioner, thank you. Chris Hood, I'd like to recognize Chris Hood, our Director of Finance, to give you an update on the fiscal year 22 tax equivalent payments, also known as pilots. Thank you, Chris.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Today I'd like to provide you with a review of our proposed payment in lieu of taxes or pilots for the FY22 fiscal year. Also, I would like to present Resolution 1449 for your consideration, which is a request to City Council to set the payments in lieu of taxes for the FY22 year for both KUB's electric and gas divisions, and that is required by state law. All right, so start out with, I'll give you a look at the total amount of pallets that will be paid this year. We're set to pay right at $32.4 million in pilots. Obviously, that is a large number, so you got to take your victories where you can. The amount is actually down $22,000 from last year, so small victory there, and the fact that we'll be paying a slightly less amount of pilots. The decrease is primarily attributable to the fact that Knox County decreased their equalization rate this year by about 6%. That equalization rate, when multiplied by the tax rate, gives you the rate by which we apply to our base of assets to determine the amount of tax we pay. So the Knox County rate is also used for the city of Knoxville, so you've got our two largest taxing jurisdictions there, which the rate actually decreased this year. The other thing that did was that helped us come in under budget for the year. This year we're going to come in right at $2.8 million under what we had budgeted. So part of that is the fact that equalization rate is down, creating lower payments. But the other part is due, in fact, to the pandemic. Last year we really tightened up the number of projects that we had outstanding. We also waived some of the projects as far as starting projects last year just to manage cash flow and also with the difficulty of getting work done. So really, when we had calculated the tax base for this year, we had a much larger fixed asset base that we were going to be taxed on than what actually came to fruition. So $2.8 million in savings from a budgetary perspective this year. All right, before we get into looking at the taxes by jurisdiction and by division, I want to note kind of a little bit of background on the governance for the pilots for each of our operating divisions. You'll see here in the chart above that the payments for the electric and gas division are calculated and distributed differently than those in the water wastewater. Electric and gas falls directly under state law. State law prescribes how we calculate those payments and who we disperse those payments to. For electric and gas, we calculate payments in two parts, one on the fixed asset value or the net plant value in the taxing jurisdictions. The other part is by our average operating margins in those systems. So you got two means you calculate the taxes, and you pay those to each of the jurisdictions where we have utility facilities located. So for KUB, that's both Knox County, City of Knoxville, Union County, Granger County, Sevier, Loudoun, etc. So you got a much larger tax base by which you pay for electric and gas. And then the payments have to be approved not only by this board, but also by City Council by state law. State law requires that the governing body of KUB, being City Council, also set and distribute those payments before we can distribute them to the taxing jurisdictions.
So
Do you have a
Chris,
question?
So when the fiber division is up and running, will the fiber division also be covered by pilots, and who is the governing authority? Is it city charter, state, none?
Yeah, so
What do you mean?
unfortunately, we get to pay taxes on fiber as well. I wish that was not the case, but we do. And it follows the line there where electric and gas are. It falls more under the electric payments. Now, what I will note is, if you think about the way we're putting our fiber system together, most of those assets are actually in our electric division.
That's right.
So next year, you'll see electric go up. Fiber will pay a payment, but it will be pretty small because the asset base for fiber will also be small, and the revenue base will be small next year.
Okay.
So fiber will grow over time, but next year, this will have our fifth division on it.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very good. Moving on to water and wastewater. State law is silent on water and wastewater as far as payments, so we actually utilize city charter to pay these payments to the city of Knoxville only. This board approves those payments, and they are based solely on the net plant value in those systems. The payments for water and wastewater are due the last business day of February. For electric and gas, and ultimately for fiber, it will be due the last day of June. All right, so let's move on and look at our payments by division. You'll see here that our electric division, which has a largest asset base, actually pays about half of our payments. That's $16.8 million this year. Gas division, $7.1 million, and then our water division, right at $3.4 million. You will notice payments for each of those divisions is down this year by about $100,000 per division, as expected by the fact that the total pilots are down. One thing that is different here to note, wastewater, you'll see that the payments are up almost $250,000. Wastewater we pay only to the city, and this actually goes back to an agreement we have with the city when the consent decree was first started. We agreed to pay no more than a 5% increase each year with the city due to the fact that we did not want to create a windfall because of the assets that had to be put in place due to the consent decree. So each year you will see that number continue to grow, but grow by no more than 5%. All right, so moving on, taking a look at where the money is going by taxing jurisdiction. You see the $32 million there, 21 of that is going to the city of Knoxville, so roughly 2/3 of our payments go to the city. Like I said, they receive payments from each of our 4 divisions. Knox County will receive about $10 million. So most of the money goes to the city of Knoxville, Knox County, and then the surrounding taxing jurisdictions also receive in total about $1 million. I will note that while Knox County decreased their equalization rate this year, each of the surrounding counties, with the exception of Sevier, also adjusted either their equalization rate or their taxing rate downward. And a lot of that's just due to the fact that rising property values have allowed those rates to come down somewhat. The governments are able to generate the income they need off the increase in property values and sales revenue. Okay, so in total, once again, $32.4 million distributed to each of the taxing jurisdictions. Last of all, this brings us to the resolution that's before you today. Resolution 1449 is a request to City Council satisfying the state statutory requirement for consultation for the electric and gas division pilots. In total, we are asking them to approve $23,873,734 of payments for distribution.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain now a motion on Resolution 1449 on first and final reading.
Move for approval.
Commissioner Hamilton moves. Commissioner Caballero seconds. Are there any members of the public who'd like to address the board on this resolution? Seeing none, Mr. Coley, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Askew.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero. Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Herbert. Commissioner Simpson Brown. Commissioner Small.
Aye.
And Commissioner Worden. Resolution 1449 has passed.
Thank you. The next order of business is Resolution 1450. Mr. Bowles?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to recognize Jamie Davis, Vice President and our Chief Technical Officer, and Vice President of Fiber and Chief Technical Officer, to give you an update on a request for additional budget appropriations for our fiber division this fiscal year. So, Jamie.
Commissioners, you'll recall back in August when we established the fiber division budget that we set that at $6 million. And what we are here today to do is to amend that budget, request your consideration for amending that budget upwards of $4 million to make additional appropriations, a total of $10 million. And you'll say, well, why is that? Well, as we are continuing to grow and learn about how to be in this business, we had a plan to purchase IP addresses, Internet Protocol addresses, which are required for our network to be able to talk to our customers' networks, if you will. We're required to have those addresses, and we thought we'd phase in those purchases as our system grew. What we have since learned is that there's an availability issue in this space, as well as the cost of IP addresses is kind of going up like Bitcoin. It's growing at a pace in which our budget had not already planned for these cost increases. So we're here today to do two things. One, buy all the IP addresses that we think we will need in order to be able to serve our customers per our plans, as well as this really taking a jump into this space to save money. At this current growth rate, the cost considerations over the planned purchase timeframes have been very significant to our customers. So this is a good business decisions in that particular regard. You'll see the fiber division's budget there, as I mentioned, $10 million in total is what we're amending it to. Where we're adding that additional $4 million is 3.6 of it. There will be for the additional IP addresses that we want to purchase, and then the remaining amount there just in other, as we're a nice round number for our budget in that particular regard. Now, this is a zero-sum game as far as our plans go, because at the end of the day, our future budgets in FY23 and 24 will be reduced by those purchased amounts that we'd want to do. So we're still on plan in that particular regard. This truly is just a timing issue. So I'll be glad to entertain any questions, but again, Resolution 1450 presented for your consideration today does increase our budgetary appropriations for the fiber division up $4 million for a total of $10 million.
Jamie,
Go ahead.
do we pay the FCC for those licenses,
No,
or who do we pay?
there is a clearinghouse, an entity
Okay.
that you buy IP addresses from in that particular regard. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
And is it like Bitcoin in the sense that they're traded and the trading
Yeah.
drives the price up or down?
There's a market for it. I think in June of this year, they were going for $40 an IP address. We bought them for $52. So it just shows you how quick in time, the velocity in which they're growing at this. If they grew at that rate, I think, and if we extrapolate that over time, we could be looking at a $7 million impact to our budgetary plan. So I think with all there's an operational benefit for us having contiguous addresses. There's a cost benefit, and then two, we'll just know we'll have them. There's a finite number of IP addresses, and that's what's driving that market rate. So as more folks require static IP addresses and/or more folks get into this business in the telecom space, these have become a valuable commodity. So kind of interesting. Technological economy out there, so something new in that particular regard.
I'll entertain a motion on Resolution 1450 on first and final reading. So Commissioner Warden moves. Second?
Second.
Commissioner Hamilton seconds. Are there any members of the public who'd like to address the board on this resolution? Seeing none, Mr. Coley?
Commissioner Askew.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero. Commissioner Hamilton. Commissioner Herbert. Commissioner Simpson Brown. Commissioner Small. Commissioner Worden.
Aye.
Resolution 1450 has passed.
Very good. Now we're going to move to the part of the agenda that is my favorite part of the agenda every year. And Mr. Bolus?
Yes, and I agree with that statement. Today we were pleased to introduce our annual Employee Excellence Awards. We do this every December. I would like to recognize Elba Marshall, our Director of Corporate Services and Diversity, to kick us off today.
Thank you, Gabe. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm happy to be here to kick off our annual Employee Excellence Awards. As a lot of you know, this was all started by a former board member, Bruce Anderson, about 8 years ago. And he brought this to us so we would have an opportunity to bring in front of you all the great work that goes above and beyond the daily things that our employees do and the commitment and hard work that they have to serve our community. Since this program started 8 years ago, we've been able to recognize individuals for completing very complex projects. Grid modernization last year was one of our winning nominations for the Employee Excellence Awards, and also innovation and operational efficiencies, and also coming to the aid of our community in need when things have arisen. We're very proud of what our employees accomplish every day. But one thing that we do see is there's things that happen that stand out above and beyond their work that they're doing. And this year we had over 15 nominations, which just really demonstrates that we have no shortage of things that are being done by our employees in addition to their work. And which makes it a really hard decision to come down to who gets to be here today, but we're excited that we will be honoring 3 separate awards. And in addition to the people here in the presentation, you should have in your portfolio a handout that gives you a little bit more detail about each of the nominations and awards that we're giving out today. And at this time, I'd like to turn it over to our first presenter, Derwin Haygood.
Thank you, Elba. Commissioners, as you know, excavators are supposed to have utilities located before they dig. And utility locating has long been outsourced to a contractor, and we've enjoyed the cost savings and efficiencies for many, many years in that regard. But construction in the past 2 years has really ramped up. As a result, we have a lot more utility locating that's gone on. So we had a team of folks that had an interest and wanted to reevaluate that process. And so we did so. They worked on it for several months. Several different facets, several different areas were evaluated, including even having some of the utility locating done by in-house resources. In result, we're just very appreciative of their continuous improvement focus and effort. And as a result of their effort, we're prepared to make improvements going forward. So I want to recognize the group. This is the representation of the group, and if they could please stand to be recognized. Congratulations.
Commissioners, it's hard to believe that COVID has been an unwelcome guest among us for about 2 years now. And you'll recall last year we came with an Employee Excellence Award for all of our employees for their flexibility and really for just their continued service throughout the pandemic over a year ago. The work that they did to work through that first year of uncertainty and difficulty was worthy of all employee recognition. And at that time, we were hopeful that maybe we could get back to a new normal. this time last year, and that certainly wasn't the case. There were a lot of work groups that continued to have to support the organization as we continue to get work to serve our customers. And then, frankly, groups that also directly served our customers, as you've heard about over this past year. And with that, they had to show remarkable flexibility, perseverance, and just a lot of hard work to push through this past year of vaccinations and now boosters and other things that went along that time, as well as additional funding to help our customers. So the first group I want to really talk about is our Occupational Health group, which is inside our Human Resources Department. They were the clearinghouse, the subject matter experts, those that guided us to help our employees navigate through all the different quarantine guidelines, help coordinate our vaccinations, our boosters, and worked diligently, oftentimes after hours, as our employees would have symptoms or questions or other things that went on, and they just did a remarkable job to track the cases, to help us with our PTO incentive for our employees from a vaccination standpoint, and just a lot of things along the way to help educate and inform our employees and give them the confidence that our workplace was indeed safe, and we're doing the things to socially distance and to mask and other things along the way to keep our employees safe. They did a remarkable job. Also through this process, we had to keep a lot of work going. We did a lot of creative things in our construction and operational groups, from staggering shifts and a lot of things along the way, and the storeroom folks had to adapt to that. They had to make sure our materials were ready, had to change their shifts and how they approached that work. And as you have heard recently, material availability has become a bit of a challenge, partially due to COVID and other reasons after that, and they have been very creative at identifying that early, working through that often to make sure that we have the materials that we need, that our crews need to get work done to help support new service, maintenance, storm response, and a variety of things. They just did a remarkable job during that period of time, navigating that and being proactive in that regard. You've heard a lot about the work that our customer experience folks have done to help our customers directly during this time. We've been blessed with some additional funding, and they have worked proactively and directly with our customers through that period of to make sure that we work with that. They work with a lot of agencies to help our customers in a variety of ways, either through KUB directly or through other agencies that also receive funding. The one thing that's really staggering about this is we helped over 20,000 additional customers during that pandemic. And there's generally 3 customer counselors that help with this. There's actually only 2 for the majority of this period of time. So really, each one of them had about an impact on about 10,000 customers each, which is fairly remarkable. So this group certainly did a lot of work and defined that hard work part of this as well. And then lastly, while there's a lot of others we could mention, this group brought a lot of those things together from a communications perspective. They worked with our ICS team and got to meet with us every week as we were working through this process. They worked with each of the departments to help communicate messages, and then as well worked with our customers with the social media messages, with direct mailings, with a lot of things just to try to get the word out about cure funding or about vaccinations at KUB, or a lot of things internally and externally throughout this whole process. And they just did a remarkable job of trying to get information out proactively and in a way that was helpful and informative to our customers and our employees. So with that, I want to recognize these 4 groups that really did a remarkable job and exhibited what we're looking for from an employee excellence perspective. I'll ask they stand, and also if you'll look to that side as well, Courtney's also doing double duty behind the camera, so I don't want to forget her as well. So if you all would please stand to be recognized.
Terrific. Thank you. Wonderful.
Commissioners, I'm really pleased to present what surprise is our board chair award today. The employees involved and nominated were not aware of the chair selection today, so I get the distinct honor of presenting this group. And while all of KUB employees do a great job serving our community, sometimes it's just about being in the right place at the right time to really go above and beyond. And the first example of that is Rachel Everence. And it was about this time last year, we all had a wonderful visitor of a nice Christmas storm that knocked out power. And just like, honestly, with every storm we have, Rachel's one of the very first ones to raise her hand to go do damage assessment. And so on this particular day, in the evening, Rachel was out assessing our damage to a particular circuit. As she was leaving that area, she passed by a local gas station convenience store, which was closed. And the thing that she noticed, though, there was a toddler boy in that parking lot standing by himself. No other cars were around. The lights were off in the convenience store. There was no activity going on. And she decided to stop. Something told her that she needed to intervene. And the boy was wearing only a shirt and a diaper. His legs were very red from the cold. And the only thing he would say was ouch as he was stomping his feet. And so Rachel did the right thing and stopped, talked to the boy, alerted authorities to get the right assistance there. As Rachel and I were talking about this the other day, a lady stopped by to help her, seeing that Rachel was there. And again, what I found interesting was here, Rachel, when seeing the opportunity to help, stopped to help. The lady said, well, as I passed by before, I saw him there, but I didn't know what was going on. And she only stopped to help because Rachel had done that. So what a great opportunity for Rachel to show her heart to our community. So the first person we would like to recognize for our Community Neighbor Award is Rachel Evans. And Rachel, if you'll please stand. Our second group, if you can look at the pictures, I always say, some days end up being hotter than others. And this was one of those days. Our Connect to Comfort crew that we've just started up in the past couple of years, helping folks get new hot water heaters in their homes. I was out talking to a customer who was interested in this service when they heard a large boom. So in April of last year, they're out on site at this customer's house, and when they hear that, they look next door and they see the fire of the ATV that you can see there in the picture. That particular customer, who you can see his back in the picture there, he'd been welding on that vehicle, trying to repair it. Maybe that wasn't the best idea that day. But when that occurs, as they say, some people run towards the fire and some people run away. And I'm pleased to say that Brad and Justin Dakota's training kicked in. They grabbed their fire extinguishers off their truck and they assisted this neighbor in what for sure was limiting property damage and perhaps even another opportunity for a safety incident of person. So I'd like to recognize Brad Hall, Justin Clifton, and Dakota Wright. If you all will stand, please. Our second Community Neighbor Award. And then lastly, there's sometimes in which, again, you just know there's something not right on a given day, and you hear something and you don't know quite what to do with it. And on this particular day, again, almost this time last year in January of 21, Lee Plumley was working at our plants, just like he has for the last 47 years at KUB. And at the end of the day, he just knew something wasn't right. He was hearing somebody kind of moaning, wailing for help, but he looked around the plant and couldn't find him. So he went in to his supervisor, Jimmy England, and said, Jimmy, something's not right. There's something going on. And Lee and Jimmy got on the security cameras and started looking around and see if they could find, and sure enough, what they spotted on the train trestle there crossing Williams Creek at our water plant was somebody, one of our neighbors, who'd found their way onto that train trestle and got their foot stuck in the track and couldn't free themselves. They sprang into action, called KUB security, and told them to call 911 to let the train operator not send another car down that line. They did that, and then as you can see, they stayed there with our neighbor until, again, authorities were there to be able to, one, free them, but then take them to a local area. So again, another opportunity on any day where it being in the right place at the right time, our great employees get an opportunity to show their heart and help somebody have a less bad of a day in that particular regard. So I'd like for Lee and Jimmy to stand and be recognized. And that's the names there if it is. Okay.
Well, let me just say, on behalf of our board, how proud we are of all of you, all of the award winners today. I've lived in this town for a long time and have been on this board for 6 years, and every year it seems that the award winners outdo the year before. They just continue to do amazing things to make KUB the kind of organization we can all be proud of. And I know I speak for all of my colleagues here in congratulating you all and thanking you for being such a great example of what KUB is really all about. I will also say that one of I know I speak for two others on the board who've served as chair who will tell you that this is one of the hardest things we are called upon to do each year, which is to pick the board chair's award. And I want you to know that this year was particularly difficult because all of you were heroes and acted heroically. As I was looking at the three examples in this last award presentation, it just seemed that you were all emblematic of what I think our workforce is all about. I think that your colleagues, if they came upon similar circumstances, would react the same way. Because that's who we are as a company. And so, I guess I spend a lot of my life looking for heroes, and I think today we had a lot of heroes. And so thank you. Thank you on behalf not only of the board, but on the communities that we serve and the life that we make possible because of your good work. So thank you so much. Mr. Bolus, do you have something you'd like to add to that?
You actually stole my thunder there. I appreciate that. So I will echo that. I have the pleasure of working with these folks for many years. I've known them for a long time, and while we talk about things we would do when given the situation, they prove it every day. Yeah. And we do a lot of work every day. We have 1,000 employees working on 4 utilities, now 5, doing the jobs, very difficult jobs, very tedious and high technical knowledge. But then when something like this comes up, as Jamie said, they run to the fire, they run to the storm, they run to the event. They help those in need, they stop, they care, and I can't speak enough about how blessed I am to be part of this organization and have folks like this that work with me every day. And so I will echo that. I do want to recognize one person and put him on the spot. So Lee Plumley, please stand again. Lee, stand up, please. So Lee Plumley has let me know that he is going to retire next month after 47 years at KUB. And so I want to recognize Lee for his service. He's been here since 1974, worked in our plants, and what you don't see is all the things he does behind the scenes to keep those plants looking pristine, functioning, working, and those are the kind of folks you just want to, you want to, clone, you want to duplicate because they're just so unique. And so, Lee, we're going to wish you well on your retirement. He will not be a stranger. That's the good news. He gets around and talks to us a lot. So, congratulate on 47 years of service. Thank you, Lee.
Thank you so much, Lee.
Switching gears real quick, I want to ask Derwin Hardygood to give you an update on the storms of last weekend. As you know, it hit the western part of Tennessee and Kentucky extremely awful. I mean, the news and the pictures and the tragedy out there is awful. We had a smaller event here, but it was a significant event. So I asked Derwin to give you an update on what happened last Saturday and Sunday in Knoxville.
Sure. I guess I get to speak about some more heroes at KUB, to be honest with you. We had a lot of folks that spent their weekend trying and working to restore power to our customers. And I just can't say enough how proud we are of what they've done. As you know, a storm did pass our system. Started about 10 o'clock. It started hitting us 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. And, again, the devastation that occurred in Kentucky, it was the same front that came through here. We just were fortunate. We didn't get the brunt of the storm. However, it did impact us. We had 19,000 customers without power at the peak of the storm. The outage map actually shows a point in time. That's probably a couple to 3 hours into the storm, that particular map is. If you'd have seen it at the peak of the storm, you'd see a lot more of those red dots, and we all know those red dots are not good dots. They represent a lot of customers that are without power. We had over 300 events, and that was largely, as you can see in the map, on the western, central to the western portion of our service territory. I'm also going to say that we implemented our incident command structure. The storm was large enough. We needed to use additional resources. So we used resources from throughout the organization, and particularly assistance was our damage assessors. And those are folks that are trained and they continue to have training so they can go out and assess the damages in advance of our crews. They can look at what the damages are and they report back so that it's a much more efficient process when our crews show up on the site. I'm also proud to say that we were safe. No incidents at all during the entire weekend. And as you know, that's a lot of dangerous work. They're out there in the elements and some tough work. As is customary, we did focus on the red dots, the largest customer outage events first, and we work our way down. And I'm proud to say that in about 4 hours, we had a majority of our customers back on. However, there was a lot of customers still. We had about 750 customers still without power after 12 hours. And most of the reason for that is, if you think about it, trees were falling on our lines. In those situations, as the trees fell on the lines, several spans would fall and several poles would break. So the level of effort to restore power to those folks was much, much more significant in many cases. As always, we do get a chance afterwards to take a breather, and then we assess. And so we've already got a meeting set up to look about what went well and what can we do better. Again, continuous improvement focus. So that is scheduled, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Hey, Derwin, I would love to hear the assessment, because remember we had talked about doing the switches and that was gonna help?
Yes.
So I wonder how that all,
Actually, I actually did a little calculation on my own, and we had about 15% reduction in customer minutes of interruption because of our smart switches in this particular event.
good deal.
Those are only on a handful of circuits right now. We've not built out our entire system, so once we get that built out, that'll be even more of an impact to our customer base.
Well, I have to say that the wind was so strong at my house that it literally blew rain into our closed windows, into our living room, on that side of the house, and large pools of water. And we've had our windows repaired recently. So that is, I think what it does is it speaks to the good work that all our teams do to maintain our equipment and to get the trees down where it makes sense to get the trees down. And so it's really a testament that we didn't have much greater damage when something can blow water through closed windows. And we didn't have more outages. I think it's just a testimony to the same people we've been recognizing all day. So
Amen.
Thank you all. Other questions or comments?
I had a comment. I, of course, logged in,
Yes.
and when I did, I thought that with our new meters, that you all know immediately when there's an outage. The system acted like it did not know there was an outage. And I thought that was strange, because I would have thought it would have immediately said, hey, your outage, we recognize your outage, or something of that nature.
We do have our new advanced distribution management system that's up and running. We actually started the proactive notification that occurred about a month ago. So this was the very first time that we were able to introduce that. And as you know, we've done a very soft launch on that because we've got a lot of learning that's necessary in that regard. And that's one of the things we are going to talk about as one of the opportunities for improvement. Some of the folks were told, I think you were told, it might be a 12-hour outage.
Correct.
And that was one of the big red dots. And generally, we do a better job than 12 hours on those. So I personally know that we can do better. We need to do a little more analytics and improve upon the communication to the customers in that regard. So that is number one on the list, probably, of some improvement opportunities.
If you have the app, is it capable of pushing a notification to a customer?
It is. In fact, we had probably about 100 customers that we're aware of that did get proactive notifications. So we're still going to investigate that.
Okay.
And how
So,
long
yes,
were you out?
About
3 hours?
Yeah, about 3 hours.
Yeah.
So to be told 12, and it only be, I mean, you don't want to under-promise all the time.
I understand that.
Over-deliver, but still,
Exactly.
that does cause tension among our customers.
So, yes.
Good. Well, I'm glad you're going to, I'm glad for the soft rollout.
Yes.
And I'm glad for the continuous learning.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
other questions or comments? All right. I recognize now Commissioner Simpson Brown, the chair of our nominating committee, for an announcement.
Good afternoon. I'd like to start with a brief announcement related to the nominating process for a new commissioner appointment. From the nominees selected by the board, Mayor Concanon recommended Ron Feinbaum for city council approval, and that action was recently taken by council to approve Mr. Feinbaum's appointment. We'd like to extend our congratulations to Mr. Feinbaum, and we are excited to welcome him in January. Also in January, the board elects officers as required by the charter. The nominating committee met earlier today and voted to nominate the following slate of officers for 2022. For chair, Jerry Askew, vice chair, Adrian Simpson Brown, and for secretary, Mark Walker. The election of officers will be conducted in January 2022 as required by the charter. Are there any questions or comments?
Are there any members of the public who wish to address the board today? Very good. Thank you. All right. Ms. Rose, you want to address the board on this report, or more in general?
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw Liz get up, so I wasn't sure if it was time.
Well, if you would like to address us now, that's fine.
No, that's fine. I mean, when is it most appropriate for us to talk about our data? Right now? Yes. Okay, then we're gonna go for it. So hi, my name is Erin Rose. I'm with the steering committee for Knoxville Water and Energy for All. And as you might recall, well, first I want to applaud all the excellent work being done at KUB. It's amazing to hear your stories and all the good work that you're doing. And it's also great to see a lot of the evaluation work that's being done and the metrics and indicators that you use to guide your decision making. And that's in part why I'm here as well. As you might recall from my last comment, KWA has submitted an open records request for a series of customer data on disconnections and past due account information. So we received the requested data a few weeks ago, and although our analysis is ongoing, we do have some preliminary findings to share with you today. And so I don't know. I'll give you these too. And I apologize, I didn't realize it was going to be such a large crowd. I would have made more handouts. So what we want to do is think about these types of metrics and indicators that deal with disconnection and past due account data as an important first step for understanding our community's energy and security hardships. These data also allow for data-informed policy and program making. In the absence of KUB leadership adopting this best practice, this public reporting, KWA requests KUB board members put forth a motion along these lines, and I've also attached additional information for you to put into maybe a future motion. KUB will provide ongoing monthly public reporting of residential energy and security data. These data shall include, but are not limited to, disconnection and past due account data. So I've also put in the handout some information from the National Consumer Law Center on additional energy and security data points that you might consider putting in any future motion for these data to become public. So let's get into it. As you can see in our draft energy and security dashboard, for KUB residential customers, between January and September of this year, 9,150 households experienced a disconnection from their KUB utilities for non-payment of services. And as far as I know, this is the first figure that you've heard that's a cumulative figure across 2021, and that's only through September. So again, it might seem weird that I'm up here providing this information for you when KUB has this data and should be tracking it and making it public, and that's in part what we're here to ask KUB to do. So the other thing that we asked for is data at the census tract level, which we were told through an open records request, KUB is not compelled to provide data at that scale, even though they have provided us that data at that scale in the past. So what they did provide is this information at the zip code level. So even from these zip code data, which are again not as useful as data at a census tract level, we are able to observe a similar racial disparity in utility and security, with the only non-majority white zip code experiencing 3 times the KUB disconnection rate with a disconnection rate of 12.4% compared to 3.8%. This finding can be found in the box at the bottom left corner. We also learned that every month, an average of 25,000 households are 30 days past due on their KUB bill. We have additional data on percentage of households on payment plans and average utility cost data for each zip code that we will continue to analyze and share when we have data for all of 2021, hopefully next month. So we will be providing these updates to you through this public comment platform every month so that there is this public reporting. And these data are already updated and put on our website at knoxvillewea.org for all of you guys that don't have handouts and those listening in. So we strongly encourage the board and KUB leadership to make these data public and ongoing. We are happy to report these data for you. We are also happy to introduce you to individuals at the National Consumer Law Center if you're interested in learning more about how other utilities and states are reporting their disconnection data. So I guess I only have 15 seconds left, so I just want to thank you for your time and really hope that you consider using these data ongoing to evaluate your practice and policy making to ensure that KUB customers have reduced energy burden and utility security.
Thank you.
I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Rose.
I don't have a question. I guess I have more of a comment. So particularly when we evaluate Black and brown communities, we tend to look at cause effect. But I want to think, do you have any data when you talk about the unemployment in certain communities, lack of access to jobs, lack of access to livable wages, lack of access to education? So, I think when you talk about one thing causes the other, I think there are a whole lot of variables in the middle that sometimes need to be addressed that doesn't necessarily fall at the feet of the utility, but are other societal policies and procedures that have affected that outcome. So I just want to know or to put that out there to say there are some other things that are affecting some of these, right? And so I think that it needs to be a holistic approach in terms of not only, hey, people can't afford to pay their utility bill, so the utility company is bad, but when people don't pay living wages, when they don't have access to public transportation, and they exclude that 915 zip code. So I mean, I can go on and on. We talk about economic disparities in terms of lack of jobs. So I just want to make sure that as we look at this and as we talk about this, that we do look at it from a holistic perspective and not say, well, KUB is doing something bad because people are having disconnections. Now, of course, we absolutely need to address those kinds of issues as a board and as an organization, but there are also some other longitudinal issues that affect that I think sometimes get left out of the conversation. So,
absolutely, and I would like to comment back if that's okay.
Oh,
and that's one thing we did when we had the census tract data. It was at a level where we could really have confidence in the census data in terms of median income, for example, unemployment rates, children in poverty. And so we did a correlation matrix that looked at race and ethnicity, but also in addition to all those other factors. And then we put them in a regression model to see which factors were the most important factors that predicted disconnection rates across census tracts. And race, the percentage of Black individuals living in a census tract, was the most important predicting factor. So although it's not like, a for sure thing, and I'm not talking about causation, it's really about relationships. So, and predicting. And so I'm not saying that, correlations are necessarily cause and effect, like you were saying, but they do, and these types of statistical analyses do consider all those factors within the same model and see which factor is the most important one for predicting that outcome. And those models were statistically significant, meaning that there was a less than 1% chance that we were observing this racial disparity by chance.
So you were saying, so your model says that regardless of race and ethnicity, even if you're at the same income levels, you'll have a higher propensity to get disconnected from, if you were, in this case, African American versus someone who might be white who has the same economic standing. Is that
We
what
can't do
your
it
data
at the
said?
household level, we have to do it at the census tract level, because all these data are not at the household level. So those census tracts are more, with the higher percentage of Black individuals, are more likely to have a disconnection rate at 2 times those census tracts that are also above average poverty. So we really did try to be fair and consider all the different factors, which is why we really wanted to extend our census tract data, because we only had it between October and February of last year. So what we wanted to do is get the census tract data for the rest of the 2021 months. Instead, we were only able to receive the zip code data. And so that's definitely more challenging because, as we all know in Knoxville, like our census tracts map to our neighborhoods. And our neighborhoods are where we find the populations that are most vulnerable to disconnections. So I appreciate your comment.
I want to kind of echo what Commissioner Smalls is saying, and that is, you can read, and thank you for analyzing this for us, but in delving beyond the statistics is what he's talking about. And that's where KUB is focused on looking at the holistic approach as far as the economics and job availability, all the things that he mentioned. Your statistics are great, but I would encourage you to look a little deeper beyond the statistics. That is what would help us in order to connect to the community and how we can further help the community.
Thank you. All right, thank
you
you
so much, Ms. Rose. Thank
for your
you.
comments. All right, we have one more official action today. We have a friend who's in his last KUB meeting as a commissioner. He's informed us that he will continue to be a part of the audience at most meetings and will make comments from time to time. But I'll call on Gabe for a few remarks as we honor our friend John Warden.
Yes, and I'll first recognize Mr. Coley to raise a resolution, and I'll make some comments after that.
It's my pleasure to present to you today Resolution 1451, a resolution of the Knoxville Utilities Board honoring John Warden, who is concluding service as a commissioner. Whereas John Warden became a member of this board in January 2015 and has now served faithfully for 7 years, and whereas Commissioner Warden's experience in finance and risk management has been of great value to the board in supporting KUB's work and long-range funding plans to provide safe and reliable utility service in balance with affordable rates for current and future customers. And whereas during his tenure on the board, Commissioner Warden has helped KUB manage the unprecedented circumstances of the COVID-19 global pandemic while continuing to deliver uninterrupted service and support for customers facing hardships due to the pandemic. And whereas the pandemic highlighted the impacts of the digital divide in KUB's service territory, Commissioner Warden served the community through careful consideration and action to support one of the most significant actions to ever come before KUB board, to create a 5th division of KUB to provide municipal high-speed broadband for KUB's customers. And whereas Commissioner Warden's actions to support KUB's broadband initiative will result in positive impacts on quality of life, economic growth, and student performance, especially for underserved and unserved communities and customers for many years to come. And whereas Commissioner Warden's commitment to assisting customers in need has been demonstrated through his support of programs like the COVID Utility Relief Fund and Rounded Up, which have served thousands of customers. And whereas through his encouragement and support for growth-related initiatives, Commissioner Warden has helped to keep rates affordable for all KUB customers. And whereas Commissioner Warden has also demonstrated leadership in the environmental stewardship through actions such as the first of its kind purchase of 502 megawatts of solar energy on behalf of KUB's customers through the TVA Green Invest program, investment in Knoxville's first community solar project, and other initiatives resulting in KUB's achievements of sustainability awards, including 2 Governor's Environmental Stewardship Awards, the Tennessee Solar Energy Industries Association 2020 Solar Champion, and the American Public Power Association's Smart Energy Provider designation, and annual TVA Energy Right Awards. And whereas Commissioner Worden's spirit of service and engagement in the community extends beyond his tenure on the KUB board and is reflected through his service on the University of Tennessee's Economic Advisory Council, the Boy Scouts of America Regional Board and National Council, and the boards for Trinity Health Foundation, the Arts and Culture Alliance, the Community School of the Arts, East Tennessee Foundation, and YMCA of East Tennessee, and honors including the UT Chancellor Citation for Leadership and Service, General Motors Volunteer Spirit Award, and Eagle Scout rank. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the Knoxville Utilities Board, Section 1, that this board gratefully acknowledges and commends John Worden for his dedicated service to KUB, its employees, customers, and our community. Section 2, that the board recognizes Commissioner Worden's meaningful and effective service and genuinely regrets that his time on the Board of Commissioners has concluded. And Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect from and after its passage, and that a copy shall be provided to Commissioner Worden, signed by each of the other commissioners.
Very good.
So I will say, on behalf of all the employees at KUB, that we appreciate your service. You've been very diligent in your questions and comments and helping us make good decisions along the way. And that's been very, very beneficial to me personally, but I know to our staff too. So we will see you across the street sometimes, but do not be a stranger to us. And if you have any concerns whatsoever, you let us know. So appreciate your years of service for KUB.
And John, I want to say to you, we've known each other for almost 36 years. And one of the, I was Dean of Students at the University of Tennessee for a long time. And I have to say, John, I've known John, John was one of those, I had 13 departments, only one of them was student conduct. And there were 12 other reasons to come see me, and he came to see me a lot, but not for student conduct reasons. But one of the great joys of any dean is to watch young, fresh, rosy-cheeked freshmen mature into real community leaders. And you have done that in spades, and I value your friendship personally, but I respect you even more as a leader in our community. You're exactly what we thought you would be all those years ago. And so thank you so much for your service.
I have one other comment
Yeah.
that I would like to make. I just wanted to tell Commissioner Worden that we know that one of the things that he's really going to miss by not being on this board is he's not going to have those wonderful 3- and 4-inch audit reports to read to put his children to sleep at night.
That's
so,
right.
John, I'll be happy to deliver one as we get one.
There you go.
If you find yourself.
Public record.
That's right. So that you can then print them off and have the,
Exactly.
I got it. Okay. Well, I will entertain a motion
I
on
got one more-
resolution.
one more thing, sorry,
What?
Jerry.
One more
I'm
thing?
gonna add one more thing to the agenda,
Yeah.
sorry. I want to ask Susan to give you an update on a community fair we're having, an employment engagement and fair, so.
Let me jump in
Yeah,
just
yeah.
real fast.
Please go
'cause
first.
I had a few words, I
Okay,
kind
yes.
of, parting words. You know, when I started 7 years ago, I had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old, and now they're playing volleyball and baseball. I had brown hair. Now it's all gray. And I could read Mark's reports without glasses. Now I have to have glasses, so he's ruined my eyes. But most of my time was spent on the Finance Committee, and just really, really important work, being the best stewards of the funds that are entrusted to us, rather than good stewards, being the best stewards. And that's hard, because it's a lot of times you're having to choose between good and good when making decisions. And a lot of, with the storms and consent decree and COVID and TBA contracts and broadband, we've had lots of big notebooks and lots of time spent trying to make the best decision. But there are a lot of people I need to thank. Early on, Bill Elmore, just an amazing person, and Eddie Black, and of course Mintha, and even now with Gabe and Mark and Derwin and Chris and John, Jamie, and Susan, everybody that is on the senior staff, makes our job a lot easier to understand this huge, complex system and company and that surrounds it, to try to make the best decisions. Then support folks like Liz and Debbie and Bridget. I understand there's a lot of stress involved with making all of this happen every month and making all these decisions, creating all these reports. Sometimes I'm just amazed at how much work just goes into just one 3-minute presentation. So we appreciate that, being on the civilian side of things and having to sit here and make decisions. I just really appreciate that. And then the board itself, what a group of rock stars. You got Jerry and Adrian and Celeste and Claudia and Kathy and Tybee and even Bill down there. He occasionally throws in a nugget of brilliance every once in a while. But it's a team effort, and I've enjoyed being a part of the team. But as we learned also today, the person and the group of people that I think that's always on our minds are the unseen, we mentioned it, heroes, that are on the pole in the snow. They're in the ditch when it's raining. They're what makes all of this happen so that our schools and hospitals can be open and operate. So I guess more than anything, the thing I've learned is I've just developed an admiration for the people that are out there every day making it so that we can all enjoy these things. And lastly, I just want to reiterate the first 4 words of KUB's vision statement. KUB exists to serve. And that is so true. I mean, and you see it in every committee and in every employee, just that servant heart. And I'm just, when I was thinking about it and making some notes, I got a little choked up because it's been my honor to serve.
Thank you so much. Well, I know this will be controversial, but we need a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 1451, which Mr. Coley read for us on first and final reading. Moved by Commissioner Herbert, seconded by Commissioner Hamilton. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? I'll tell you what, let's take a roll on this one, too.
Commissioner Askew.
Aye.
Commissioner Caballero.
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Herbert.
Aye.
Commissioner Simpson-Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Small.
I had to think about it.
Commissioner
I'll
Warren, you don't
abstain.
get to vote.
Commissioner Warden abstains. All right, well done.
Thank you very much.
And Gabe, we had one additional item.
I recognize Susan Edwards.
Yes, I'm very happy to follow that. Just very quickly wanted to give you all a heads up about an event that is coming up in January. You've heard a lot about our great employees today, and we want more of them. So in your packet, you should have a card that looks like this that talks about a community job fair that we'll be having at Pell City State on Magnolia's campus We'll have one on the 13th. That one is during the evening, and one on the 14th of January that is during the day. So hopefully we can catch people on whichever schedule works for them. We'll have lots of information about current job postings, about future job postings. We'll have people on hand who can talk about the work that they do so that they can really connect with people who may have an interest. We'll be able to help them apply for jobs, even have on-the-spot interviews for those who are interested. So we're reaching out more assertively. We've already put this out on social. It's on our website. We will be doing some additional paid advertising as well. And in addition to the outreach we typically do to lots of community partners, we're actually picking up the phone one-on-one. Our DEI, our HR staff, our community relations staff are reaching out to create critical individuals in the community to help us spread the word. So if you have any suggestions for us, we have a long list already, but we're happy to add to it. And certainly if you want more cards or more information or something electronically that you can share, we're happy to provide that as well. So really looking forward to getting a good, robust applicant pool out of this, we hope, for our fiber jobs, for our customer service jobs. And if it goes well, we hope to repeat it in the future. So that's my last plug.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. This is really important, and these jobs pay well. So let's try to get the word out. All right, yes? Did somebody say something? Okay. Following the adjournment of this meeting, the board will have a lunch session that is open for the public to observe. With no more business, I declare us adjourned.